people of the internet. Ian Altosaar, the Freedom Astrologer here, and bringing you a deeper dose of freedom once again. And in this video, we're going to talk about vulnerability, but we're going to talk about vulnerability with the self. Now, there's a lot of talk constantly about, vulnerability itself and being vulnerable with others and being okay with being vulnerable with others. There's a lot of people who have kind of brought this idea to the mainstream, like Brené Brown and people, I think, doing good work with it. And I think it's an important part of literally being a human and becoming a healthy human being with solid emotional foundations. But in this case, we're going to talk about vulnerability with the self, because I don't see a lot of people. I actually haven't seen any people talk about this. So hopefully I'm the first, but if I'm not, that's okay as well. Let's say the message here is more important than my ego. Let's put it that way. And I brought you guys this kind of image here on my left as well. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this and what I mean by a lot of things that I'm about to say. Now, when we're talking about vulnerability with others, it's in the very simplest of terms, it's about admitting where we are at, where we're at with them, in relationship with them, and sometimes it's career situations, work, business situations, and we have to be admitting of our mistakes, of the things we can't or will not do, or don't have the skills to do, or maybe we messed up somewhere. And this, the moment when we do it, and the ability to actually do it, which is, I think it's becoming more okay in society, but it's still, I think, quite rare. Now, having said that, I think like being vulnerable with others is more, let's say, almost like it's almost gotten to a space where it's okay to talk about. People understand it. People are practicing it, in their daily lives, in their relationships, in their working lives. And I think it's actually, kind of silently becoming a very valuable skill and an important skill to create, actually not only to create freedom for ourselves, but actually to create freedom within relationships, within businesses, within the workspace. When you're truthful about something you have done, what has happened, and you say it creates, or you express it and you discuss it and you bring it to a table, it creates freedom. When you suppress it, try to hide it, try to lie about it, it creates contraction, it creates more drama, it creates more problems, it creates more anger and conflict later on. Now imagine if we can flip this to the self. So, in our minds, in our kind of the way we see ourselves, there's a lot of contradictions there. Often, very rarely we can, very clearly see ourselves, because obviously it's understandable as well, because there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives, in our business, in our finances, in our relations, every area. There's constant movement, there's constant change, and it's quite hard to be always understanding of where we are at. And this is one of the reasons why I brought this guy in this darkness of and he kind of symbolizes for me, the fact that we always don't understand where we are at, what is actually going on with ourselves, and he's kind of holding his hands and kind of questioning. And in the question, actually, this is a really good segue, I think, into what the gist of this video is. And we have these ideas, and some of these ideas might not be true, might be true, but very often in our lives, when things start to change, when we start to make jumps, when we start to make changes in our lives, and maybe we're working towards something big, and we want to get to somewhere, and we want to achieve something, we want to make something happen. A lot of these moments are kind of pivotal moments, important moments, where these hidden places, hidden facets of ourselves, like this guy is kind of questioning, he's kind of like, who am I? Is this really me? He's kind of looking into himself, but he doesn't yet understand. And very often in these pivotal moments, big changes in our lives, this is where a lot of that those hidden places come, almost like to bite us, almost kind of like to, sometimes even we don't know that they're there. We don't even know that these spaces, these ideas, these beliefs, these feelings are there. And very often they can cause a reaction, some sort of reaction. Oh my God, this is what's happening to me. This is what's happening. Okay, so I didn't even know I was like this. And most importantly, when, let's say, the hidden part is not to our liking, this is where the suppression actually helps. And guys, please focus on this. I know I can get into tangent, but please focus on this part specifically. When we can get into these big spaces, then these hidden parts of ourselves can come to surprise us. When these hidden places are not to our liking, usually what happens at first is we suppress these parts down immediately. And now, this is one of the reasons why I brought this guy as well. This guy is at least already questioning. This guy is already asking, like, okay, so am I really like this? And in that questioning, in that awareness already, this is an important part. This is where you have an opening, or we as humans, and I as well, we have an opening in that space of being vulnerable with the self. Now, being vulnerable with the self literally means admitting to yourself that this is going on with me. This is actually, these fears, these problems, these hidden spaces like that I mentioned, these are actually parts of myself, that these are still part of me. However much I wanted to maybe be done with them, maybe you've done a lot of healing work, maybe you've done a lot of stuff on yourself, but these things come again with a new wave. And this is the part when, the kind of like the spiritual ego even comes in and starts to suppress these, starts to say, no, I've already taken care of these, I can handle this, I'm ready for this big time. But actually, this is the mind speaking. This is like the spiritual ego, or just the ego speaking. But within, internally, you're feeling a little bit scared. Maybe, again, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that is causing anxiety. That is causing you to be, anxious about what's to come. The unknown. And when you're in that space and you're able to actually admit to yourself what is going on, meaning to be vulnerable with yourself. And again, this is why I wanted to discuss. You don't have to, this part, you don't actually have to admit to anybody but yourself, because it's important for you to understand. Let's say there's a big career move coming your way. I think it's, work is such a big part of ourselves, and big career move comes. You've worked for this for a long time, and now it's given to you. You've done it, you've done the work, you made it, and suddenly a reaction comes. And before, you were like, oh, I'm so strong, I can do this, I wanted this for all my life, I've visualized this, I thought I made it, yeah. And that kind of like hard man or hard woman talk is there. I'm the shit, I'm the cool, I'm the man, I'm the woman, I'm cool, is there. But actually internally, you feel scared. because this new opportunity is very big and you don't know exactly how you're going to do it. There's a lot of unknown bits and pieces about this move, and that reaction comes. But within that reaction, if you can admit to yourself, meaning be vulnerable with yourself, like I'm a little scared, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. If you're able to do that, that opens up actually energetic space within yourself, because you're not, again, suppressing yourself, but you're actually admitting the truth of what actually is happening within this moment. And if you do that, from that, those solutions, those ideas are able to come as well. Obviously, there is a bit of a vulnerable space. There is a bit of a fear space that you have to go through as well, with your feeling, with your presence, with your guidance to yourself. But once you're able to admit the real truth of what it is to yourself, now you can, move forward. You can actually go into the space of really clearly understanding the situation and what is going on. So what I mean by this, okay, you're looking at this opportunity, it's presented to you, it's basically given to you, you just have to say yes. And for some reason, at first, the words are not coming out of you. But now you're in the space of, okay, so I admitted to myself, like, okay, I'm a little scared. I don't know. Can I even do it? Once you're in that clarity of admitting to yourself what is actually going on, now the emotional suppression has stopped, and that means you're able to think and see things more clearly. This means you can start to understand, I have these skills, I worked for this for a long time. Yes, it's a lot of responsibility. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do everything, or I'm going to make it happen. I am stepping into this with some reserve because of my fear, but I'm doing my best to go and work at it and give it my all. Because when you start to suppress it, the opposite side of the coin, when you start to suppress it, you're going to be, let's say, putting almost on a show of who you're not. And that will only lead to more fear, actually, in the end, more fear. And you kind of like almost like presenting yourself and taking those actions later on as someone who you are not, meaning those results usually not going to be the best as well. But if you're stepping into this reality from a vulnerable space, you're actually being who you are, and that is a much stronger space than not being who you are. You can feel the difference within your body. You can feel actually the certainty within the fear, and the difference between you being truthful to yourself and the difference between you kind of lying and suppressing is humongous. And actually people can start to feel it and start to understand it. It's an energetic response. And the people won't, maybe at first they will respond to that kind of like show off, lie, almost like a identity you're creating for yourself. But it will be found out, and later on you will have to be vulnerable with yourself again. So guys, I hope this video makes sense to you. Hope it helps you to understand kind of like the difference between being vulnerable with others and being vulnerable with yourself, and actually how important being vulnerable with yourself is on a deep level. And I brought the example of career, but actually you can use it obviously with relationships very similarly. You're stepping into the relationship actually in that case as who you really are, not some weird version of yourself, basically. Because you're internally you're scared, you're kind of like suppressing it, like making a good face, like, oh, I'm like this, when actually you're not. And it's okay to say that you're not, but also understand that you have the skills and the desire to work on it and make it happen in some shape or form. And the solution doesn't always have to be there immediately. So guys, thank you very much for watching, listening. Hopefully it made sense to you. Like, share, subscribe the video if you enjoyed it. And see you again soon in the next video.